Welcome to Tech Insight, where we dive into minds of industry experts to uncover insights. I'm your host, Alex. And today we are thrilled to have Ben, an accomplished enterprise architect, joining us. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Hello, Alex. Thanks for inviting me on the show.
To start, tell us about yourself and your role as an enterprise architect. How did you get into this field?
Yes, certainly. So my role currently is enterprise architect. I started as a developer and then transitioned into a solution architect. And then I did solution architect team leader for a couple of years. Now my role is enterprise architect. So to explain what I'm doing, maybe I'll start like when you work in a company in the IT department, they normally have sort of two streams. One is the engineering, which is normally doing the implementation. The other, what I call that more close to the business around the strategy, design, and architecture. So when you're working on the engineering, you're normally working on the actual implementation. So you're more involved in a lot of the technical stuff. When you work as a solution architect, like my role, when I started, so it's still close to the technical bit, but then gradually I move more towards strategy. From a technical architect to solution architect to enterprise architect, the less I got involved in the technical implementation, the more I involved in the strategy. When I say strategy is the business might have a goal. So my current business have a goal to boldly transform the customer experience. That means I need to translate this business strategy into a IT strategy that the engineering team can understand and can have a roadmap to do the implementation. So does that actually explain what I'm doing, Alex?
Oh, sounds interesting. And then for me, it sounds like more high level, and then you can have a lot of where we're going for the whole company.
Yeah, I can give you a example, right? So when I say we want to transfer our customer experience, right? So when you translate this into the engineering team, normally it means we might need to do a mobile app, or we might need to launch a new customer website. But before we're doing that, normally there's a lot of discussion and a debate around what is the best channel to engage with the customer. There's a lot of research and a lot of data analysis to be done before we can say, hey, we do need to have a mobile app. We do need to have a website. Then my role is which one we should do first. That's the roadmap, right? Which one we should do first. And that's come down with the data, right? Maybe we anticipate a lot of our customer will be complete their task through the mobile channel. And then maybe we should do our mobile channel first. Maybe we should do the mobile sort of app first. Then you can break down that into the next layer, right? If you're going to go to native, which version of the mobile app you need to develop first? Do you need to do Android or iOS? Then architect normally also get involved in the conversation. And also I mentioned like the native, right? There's a native way of doing mobile app that we can use a single code base to do mobile app. Architect also get involved to say, hey, which way we should go. So it's involved in that discussion. That obviously driven by the business strategy or what the business wants to achieve. There's a pros and cons of each decision. And a lot of my job is finding the right balance when we inform the right manager to make the right decision. So we give them the right sort of informed decision. If you go down this way, this is the pros, this is the cons. If you go down the other way, this is the pros and cons. And based on what I understand your business needs or business strategy, I think this is the way you should go. That's the real example I can give you.
Yeah, that sounds more practical, and then give us a detail of what your day-to-day looks like. And it sounds like a lot of communication is involved there. And then I guess there must be like different skill sets for being an architect and then compared to being a developer. So as someone like me, maybe starting a junior tech job after uni, what advice you would give us to someone in my position? Yeah.
Yeah, so the advice I can give for junior people who just starting out in the IT industry is you don't have to be an architect to use some of the architect skills, which a lot of us call that architect thinking. So as I mentioned, we do option analysis. If you got different ways of doing the same thing, we do option analysis. We try to engage with the right stakeholder to influence them to make the right call. So we also use influence. We're not a decision maker. We can't make the call or make the decision for them, but we can use different techniques in the right way to influence them to make the right decision. And also, I think when I start out as a solution architect, I can't explain what I'm doing, especially to my wife, because my wife, who is a real architect in the building industry, so she always joke about it like, Ben, you're not a real architect. I am. So tell me what you do. I can't explain that. Look back, it's actually because I haven't mastered that field. Now I can easily explain to anyone what I'm doing. Like I am a professional problem solver. So I just solving problem. It just happened that I'm in the digital space. If I'm moving to other field, I can apply the same architect thinking to help the other people to solve the problem. So there are different problem solving framework. There's a design thinking, there's a system thinking, like a trade-off analysis, option analysis. So there's a different framework around you can help to solving problem, help people to make an informed decision. So I think even you started as a junior role in the IT industry, those skills are crucial, right? So when I'm sure that in your daily tasks, there are multiple ways to do or to achieve the goal or to achieve what you want to do. Which sort of option you want to go down is a decision, right? So you can use that sort of the decision-making framework to help you to make a better decision. And also you can use that to actually influence other people to get buy-in. Because for the option or for the sort of, say if you want to implement a report, you want to do a report, right? There's 3 ways of doing it. And the proper way or the way that you recommend takes the longest time, take the maximum amount of money. But you think this has a lot of benefit to the company, right? You have to sell this to your project manager or to the manager, because from their eyes, they will say, hey, why do we spend more money and more time to do this report? So you have to explain to them the benefit. And that's where architect thinking comes in. So you need to explain there are 3 options. Each option has pros and cons. And you also need to understand where the business are going, like this is the strategy. And then you can say, based on all this information, I still think this way, which costs more money, more time, is the way to go, because it will bring a lot of more benefit down the track. It will enable a lot of other things down the track, or you will achieve your strategy quicker, although it costs more time and money. So that's another example I give you that although you're not in the architect position, but you can learn a few things to apply the architect thinking in your daily tasks. Does that explain what I'm trying to explain around architect thinking?
Amazing. Sounds like a boss, like giving us compass to like where we're going for the whole company ship. Yeah. As an architect, what specific skills and training do you believe are essential for someone aspiring to your role?
Yeah, so that's the question that I get asked most. So how can I become a architect? So I guess first you have to have a motivation to become architect. I think my motivation initially is money. So you can look at like different architect role, like solution architect or enterprise architect. It consistently ranked as a top 10 highest paid job in New Zealand, and even in Australia it's the same. So definitely this is one of the motivation. But I guess what really get me into want to become a architect is the skills, different skills I have to learn. So to explain that is as I mentioned, I started as developer. So I've been happily working as developer for my initial probably 7 or 8 years in my career. And I started as a web developer, then get into a platform. I work at SharePoint, I work at Dynamics CRM, and also Salesforce. The reason that triggered me to do that shift is more around the technical skills you learn becoming obsolete very quickly. So I use an analogy, right? When I started, we still had Windows. Back then, it's not mobile first. It's still around Windows. Windows released their operating system every 3 years. That means my skills becoming obsolete. That means I need to almost relearn a lot of my skills every 3 years. Then it comes to iPhone. It's released every year. So my skills becoming shorter, or the usefulness of my skill becomes shorter. That means I need to relearn my skills almost every year. And then they becoming the cloud, as almost it got constantly changed. Another example is I work in the web space. Ever since we got jQuery, the JavaScript library is booming in the front end, almost having a new way of doing JavaScript like every 3 months. So you have to learn all of those things. What triggered me is when Microsoft is migrating SharePoint to the cloud. In the cloud, it's called Office 365. It used to be SharePoint is a development platform. You can almost develop anything into SharePoint. So I make good money out of SharePoint. But then one day, so when Microsoft decided to move to the cloud, they almost killed the development aspect of SharePoint. They'll say, use Office 365 as it is. Don't do any customization. When you want to do development, using Microsoft Azure to do it. So that means, I wouldn't say 50, I think probably close to 60 or 70% of my skills become almost useless. So that triggered me thinking, because a lot of people telling me, okay, IT is for young professional, you have to keep learning, you're getting harder comparing to other professional when you age, like if you are an accountant, if you are a lawyer, as you becoming older, then you actually becoming more valuable. But it's in the development space, a lot of graduate like you coming from university with a couple of years training can do the as good job as me. So that triggered me, okay, maybe there's a better way to have a good IT career. So I asked a lot of my mentors, a lot of my previous manager. I just say, hey, you've been in this game more than I do. You seem to lead a very happy IT career, which I don't. Tell me what change I need to make. So back then, one of my manager who hired me twice, I think I almost call him the best mentor of mine, tell me that if you focus on the technical skills in your career, that's what you got, because the reality is the skills and the technology landscape change very quickly. You have to spend a lot of time to keep up. He mentioned if you got two paths, one is the people management path. That means you need to be able to lead a team. The second path is maybe you don't want to give up all your technical stuff, because when you go on the people management route, there's almost a one-way door. So when you go through that door, it's hard to get back because you focus on people managing team, build a high-performance team. The second part is more of a technical leadership. That means it's a two-way door. So if you feel uncomfortable, you can come back. So the second path is the solution architect path. I think back then I was like, oh, I want to choose a two-way door. Means I want some sort of safety net, but don't feel comfortable, I can come back. So that's how I get into solution architecture, really having a happy and fulfilling career in IT. I think it didn't let me down. So what skills and training you need to do is, most people who are in the technical role for more than 5 years, capable to become a solution architect. I guess you don't need to say, I need 10 or even 15 years of certain role to become an architect. Once you are in the technical role for 5 years, I think you got enough technical skill to become an architect. What the missing bit is some people call that soft skills, which I
Huh.
don't like we don't like the name. I think I call that a foundation skills. It's the way that you be able to engage with people. It's the way that you can learn how to solve the problem, how to influence people. Although you're not their manager, you can influence people to make the right decision. They call that influence without authority. So you try to use the data you have, the pros and cons, and that different framework to try to talk to them, all the fact, and help them to make a informed decision. And it's all of those things. And those are the things that's hard to learn. It's almost like soft skills, like the hard skills is easy to learn, and the soft skills is hard to learn. The reason for that is for technical skills, you can do simulation in your computer. You can do it very quickly when it's wrong. But with hard skills or with the soft skills, that communication skill, all of that, it's hard to learn that you actually need to talk to people. You need to talk to people. You need to engage with people. You almost like, I give an analogy, it's almost like you can't learn swim without getting into the water. So you can read all the books, you can go to all the training, but you haven't get into the water, you're not learning swimming. So this is the bit that's hard. But that's also, put it another way, that's what I find solution architect is also quite a interesting role in IT in terms of the career progression, is almost becoming a trainee for you to learn the leadership skills, communication skills, and all of the presentation skills, right? So because you don't give up all your technical stuff, while you can gradually learning that soft skills. To answer your question, so you definitely need to start learning all those soft skills. What certification? I find that TOGAF, which is quite a good for enterprise architect, and a lot of the major cloud vendor now putting their architect certification. I think it's worth learning. But remember, I mentioned the swimming analogy. So getting certified, reading books or watching videos doesn't make you a architect, or doesn't make you a good architect. You really need to start talking to people, start building their relationships, start try to sell your ideas. So remember in the beginning, like how you can apply the architect thinking in your daily life. You can do that. You don't have to be an architect in order to apply those skills. Yeah, I think that's my answer. Just learn the soft skills, getting some certification. But I think the actually using it is the most important bit in your daily work life.
Wow, that's a long journey from a developer to an architect. But I guess nowadays, we might be lucky because we can actually simulate those conversations with ChatGPT or AI. So last but not least, as you mentioned, the IT industry evolves repeatedly with new technologies emerging almost like every day. How do you think this constant change impacts in the role of an architect? Because that's like why you change your career path from a developer to an architect. And then looking like today with AI, with everything in the tech world, what do you think this will have an impact on architect?
I think that's a really good question. I don't think I have a good answer, but let me try to explain what that means to me, right? So I think with AI, especially generative AI, ChatGPT, it definitely make my life as an architect more effective. So I think we all immigrant to New Zealand. English is not my first language. So one of the challenges prior to ChatGPT is my written communication. With the arrival of ChatGPT, I think I'm as effective or as good as people that their English is their first language. In fact, I think sometimes I perform even better, because if English is their first language, they're normally not using ChatGPT to tidy things up, which I do. Means I can write better English than them, or to make things, explain things in the simple terms. I guess the second thing what I find with AI in terms of my role, because a lot of people worry that, okay, with AI, is that going to replace my role? There are a lot of articles around AI going to replace all the developers, and are they going to replace architects specifically? I don't think AI will replace architect. It just, I mentioned this, a lot of the architect, what people who haven't done architect role think what we do is drawing boxes, just drawing a few diagrams with box and lines. And that definitely can be replaced by AI. But what we actually doing is actually we communicate with people, we building relationship, we need to understand what business are going. We also need to understand the office politics in a good way. So how the decision is made in the company, apply that systems thinking in place. So when we say system thinking, a company is a system. So it's not a single department or individual or not your team. It involves people, process, and system. You need to understand if a decision need to be made. As I mentioned, should we go to native to do mobile development, or should we go to a single base? We use tools to do that. So those decisions can't made by me. There's a process within the company that need to make that decision. And normally they have a IT governance process with an IT governance forum. They normally have 5-6 people. You need to be able to communicate with these 5 or 6 people to convince them, okay, going native is the right way to go. But these things can't be replied by AI, because AI doesn't know how to engage with them, how to talk to them. AI can table fact, but people are human. We got emotion, we got feelings. So you have to understand, apply the active listening to understand their concern. So you need to taking all that soft skills to really engage with them, understand their concern. Maybe their concern is, if you go to native, all my skills will be gone. Am I going to lose a job? Are you going to outsource this? So a lot of that, there's also a safety aspect in there. So it's not just about fact. It's not about this is better, this is 90% better than the other one, therefore we need to make this decision. Sometimes it's also about whether the company has the right skill set and can we develop people internally to have that skill set. So I'm not worried about my career or solution architect replaced by AI. I don't think they will. In fact, with all the cloud, with all that complexity in the current IT landscape, there's more demand for architect. And also to becoming more effective, or the company need to make the right decision, we do need a competent architect to be guiding all the senior stakeholders to make the right call. So that's how I see it. So to put it in the summary, I think AI is becoming almost a assistant to my role as enterprise architect. AI is a good assistant to help me to achieve all my tasks in my role. With the complexity in the current landscape, there will be more demand for solution architects. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you are in that IT career, whether you're starting out or whether you are in your sort of 5 to 8 years in that senior level, start understanding what solution architects doing, start apply the architect thinking in your role. And I would recommend seriously considering solution architect, enterprise architect, or network architect, whatever architect role as your next career path.
Thank you, Ben, for being a great advocate for architect. And I guess everyone needs to think about our career path in a long way, especially in the tech area. And thank you for the great insight. That is it. Thank you for joining us today and sharing your expertise on architect thinking. And then thank you to our listeners for joining us today. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, leave a review. Until next time, this is Alex.